Good afternoon to you and welcome back to all of our viewers who have been watching. The United Rugby Championship has started in promising fashion for South Africa's teams. That continued last night as the Lions saw off Edinburgh 22-19 in quite a tightly contested game. Now the Stormers, Sharks and Bulls will be in action today. Former Bulls star Kennedy Tsimba joins me to chat about the URC weekend. But Kenny, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for joining us. You know I love chatting with you. So the Lions grabbed a third win of the season last night, but it could have gone either way, of course. What do you think made the difference for them in the end?
Yeah, it was a very extremely tight game. Both teams were obviously, I think the team up north were a bit more used to the conditions, but the Lions have been playing some excellent rugby. And I think the decision to have a great scrum half of Sanele Nahamba, who was in great form, was probably man of the match. And he was probably the difference. His kicking game was so accurate, and that just helped the Lions play in the right areas, and they defended extremely well. And that's why they were able to just sneak it at the end there, which was a great victory for them.
So on today's matches, the Sharks have a tough fixture on paper away to Leinster. How do you see that one playing out?
Yeah, I think Leinster, I suppose, are the champions in waiting, and they should deem to be so because they've got a wonderful team and a wonderful squad, and they've dominated the URC for a number of years until last year when they were knocked off their pedals. So I think they'll probably be ready for the Sharks, but I think it's a good opportunity for the Sharks to sort of stamp their authority, and they need to, because I think there's a lot of investment that's gone into the Sharks. And this would sort of, signify that they're making the right moves by taking a scalp of the nature of the Leinster, especially away from home. So that's going to be a really good game. Difficult to call.
Difficult to call, yes, and as you say, it is a good opportunity for the Sharks. There's a lot of work that has gone into the Sharks as well, but they are still without the players who did duty for the Springboks recently. So do you think they'll miss their Bok stars today? Do you think they can manage without those individuals?
I think they've got an extremely strong squad, and a lot of them, some of them unlucky to be not in the Springbok squad per se, but I think because of that great depth. And the key thing is when you're playing in the URC, whoever's got a strong, tight five and a forward pack is most generally gonna do well, because we've seen that in the past 3 weeks, all the teams that have not had strong lineouts and scrums have tended to lose the game. So if they can shore up front there, then they're in for a good chance, because Leinster themselves a bit shaky right now because they're not quite sure whether they should be playing the older, more experienced players or the younger generation, and that's where they're sort of caught in two minds. And of course, their coach Stuart Lancaster, he's moving away. So that's news that's just been announced about 2 weeks ago. So that sort of rattles Leinster's cages a bit. So it could be a good time for the Sharks to be able to get a couple of points before that second round of the season.
Let's move over to the Stormers. They're up against Zebra in Italy, and that game, I think it's going to be kicking off shortly. Will they have any problems against the Italians? Because, of course, the Italians have lost 3 in a row this season. Having said that, I mean, this is sport, and you know this, but Kenny, anything can happen. So whilst they have lost 3 in a row, anything different could happen today. What's your take?
Yeah, no, I think the Stormers will be extremely too strong for the Zebras, and I think for the Zebras, having to face these South African teams back to back is a real challenge. So I think the Stormers will walk this in candidly, and they got to just make sure that they go through their process and do what's needed to just get the bonus points. And if they can do that, then they'll be in a good space, because they also need to rotate and get some of the other players before their Springbok players start coming back as well. So they just need to try rotate and get their squad a bit bigger, especially for the second round.
Talking about the Italians who have gone ahead and lost 3 in a row, what exactly do you think is it that they're doing wrong or that isn't working out for them?
Yeah, I think they don't have enough experience playing at the top level, because they've got a lot of players that perhaps have come from the different countries, New Zealand, a lot of South African players that have all gone to Italy, and they're sort of not quite sure which way they need to go, because at the same time they need to strengthen the Italian national team for the World Cup, which means their clubs need to be full of Italians, but they haven't got that balance right. And so the club and country, there's a real friction between that. And I think that hampers their club sides. And that's probably one of the reasons why they're not getting the best out of their teams.
So, of course, it's been a decent start to the season for the South African teams. Do you see that continuing?
Yeah, definitely. I think we now used to and understand what the URC demands and needs. And I think all the teams have made sure that they've got big squads because it's a long competition. They always say that like the Currie Cup is not won in the first couple of months. So they understand that it's a long competition. So the key thing is you just got to make sure you've got a squad large enough to be able to absorb the international break. And then also absorb just the length of it, because we used to playing Super Rugby over 12 weeks and Currie Cup over 6 weeks. So this competition where you play over almost 6 or 7 months is a long period. So we just got to get used to that, and I think we'll fare pretty well this year.
Yeah, that is quite true. It's a competition over quite a fairly long period. So the Bulls, I shouldn't say this on national television, but hey, I'm just going to go there. I love the Bulls. I have a soft spot for them. Of course, they are in Scotland to take on Glasgow Warriors. They have only just travelled to the Northern Hemisphere. So will that be a factor for them today, do you think? How do you see that one playing out?
No, I think the Warriors are a bit of a tougher challenge than the other sides because I think what happens is that the more stronger sides are the Irish sides. The Scotland and Wales sides aren't as powerful because they've got a lot of their strong players all playing in the English league. So their best players are not there and available for them. So that would mean that the Bulls have got a better, fairly sort of comfortable game ahead of them, as long as they can just make sure that they keep on rolling, because that forward pack has been playing exceptionally well, and the backs, Jake has got the backs playing some exciting rugby. So for the first time, we haven't been playing 10-man rugby. We've been playing some excellent running rugby, and that's been giving us good rewards.
But Kenny, thank you so much for your time. We're going to have to leave it there for now. But once again, always, great chatting with you. And thank you always for making time for us here at the sports desk at eNCA. Of course, a lot of URC fixtures happening today. And of course, we are going to be keeping you updated as they go along. We'll have more sport for you.